Walking Dead, a podcast pulverizing episodes beyond the Walking Dead universe. Sometimes we give you news, sometimes we make you laugh, but most times we go deep. Not the deep, not today. I'm sorry. Why did I say that? Because we're here to talk about The Boys' fifth episode of season 4, titled Beware the Jabberwock, My Son. Well, Francisco had a lot to say in our Discord, and he didn't quite like this episode as much. And I think a lot of it has to do with authenticity and whether we like authenticity, first of all, in a ridiculous, overly exaggerated, cynical world like The Boys can be a series killer. But I wanted to know what you thought about that first thought. Because I think we watch The Walking Dead because we like digging into the real stuff. We like seeing serious things and people actually revealing truths.
The only possibly authentic person in the show has been Huey and Huey Sr., right? Authenticity isn't something I look for in a show like this because it's already so over the top. In Walking Dead, it was gritty. It was realistic. This show is not realistic, really. It is in the sense that it's an allegory of our society and stuff, but like people are not getting exploded in the middle of the streets by superheroes. Like that is not really happening, you know?
But all I mean
So-
is authenticity in an hyperly exaggerated, cynical
Like I said,
world.
I don't really look for that in a show like this.
But when you see it, because we're seeing it, we're seeing Frenchie seeking absolution by turning himself in. We're seeing Starlight really losing it in a serious way. Does that create some sort of cognitive dissonance with you or Rachel? Or you're fine with that?
I'm fine with it. People under extreme stress where they finally just lose it, just like Homelander did last week. He got pushed to the breaking point of his sanity and he went to town on the people in the lab. So that's what we're seeing here. Starlight is at the end of her rope. What has it been? 2 years of just constantly being under the strain of having soups come after you to kill you, basically. And they're all dealing with that. It's not like the soups don't know where to find them. You think Homelander couldn't find them super easy if he wanted to? They're constantly having these soups after them to kill them. And it's just gotten them to where they just can't deal anymore. So it manifests itself in different ways. With Frenchie, it manifests itself as I just can't deal with this guilt anymore.
With he breaks out into hives.
A cute little thing. So you pointed out that Monique is Barb from Fallout.
Barb Howard.
So her daughter's name is Janine, and it's Janie on Fallout. So the universes are connected. We're going to find out that Vought really is Vault Tech. Like, this is really Vought Tech.
Just like you were saying how Fear the Walking Dead is connected to Fallout universe, and Fallout is connected to the Vought universe.
It was. We had Ma June. You can't tell me that the Boys universe and the Walking Dead universe is not connected. We had a double dose in this episode with JDM and Omid Abtahi, Howard from Fear the Walking Dead.
Samir Shah was his name on the show.
Yeah, he didn't fare too well on either show, really.
Right off the bat. He got off on the wrong foot.
Wait till he finds out his daughter is a venom fanged snake face monster.
Let's hang on that because he does. How do I know that? Is our daughter here? Because I wanted to actually start with this. He knows his daughter's a soup. And how I know that is because he does not want her here. Why? Because I think the virus is affecting the soups in the room. What's weird is that Frenchie and to our knowledge, aren't soups. Their noses started bleeding when they went into the laboratory in the basement.
Started bleeding because that was Newman. Yeah, she
Was
always
it, though?
makes nosebleeds. Yeah, she always makes nosebleeds. That
I
was
completely
Newman.
forgot about that. Well, that's one question that's out of the way.
Samir didn't want his daughter there because there were beat up chickens and bulls and screaming devil flying sheep. I mean,
flying vampire sheep.
So this is a Monty Python, Michael Palin Jabberwock. What, behind the rabbit? It is the rabbit.
There's a very heavy supernatural crossover here too.
Yeah,
a lot of supernatural.
Know.
I mean, you can't. Yeah. Eric Kripke was the creator of Supernatural, also, and he does The Boys, plus JDM, plus the guy that played God on Supernatural,
and Soldier
Splinter
Boy
from the last episode, or one of the
Soldier Boy
last
too. Jensen Ackles
and Jensen Ackles. Yeah.
So let's hit on this because Francisco had a problem with JDM as cast, and I love this theory because ever since he said it, I couldn't not see it when I was taking my notes. He claims that Kessler on the show, JDM, is another hallucination of Butcher's.
Oh, I thought that last week. After I went back and rewatched last week, I was like, oh, wait a minute. Because you never see anybody else with him. It's always just him and Kessler. And Becca has disappeared. He hasn't seen Becca in a while. It's all been Kessler. Becca, I think, was the angel on the shoulder, and now Kessler is the devil on the shoulder. And when Butcher turned around and was smiling at the non-existent Kessler, the way they lit
Possibly.
his face was just so devilish looking, like, yeah,
Yeah. Oh,
Um,
yeah.
He looks like the Grinch.
Diabolical.
yeah,
By the way, he hasn't seen that word
diabolical
in
is
a
exactly
while.
whatever they did together 9 or 10 years ago. Kessler died, and
Right, Kessler didn't make.
yeah.
So when he said that I instantly thought, you didn't make it, Kessler. That sad thought. Oh no, I'm hallucinating Kessler.
Well, that's going to kind of suck because isn't he supposed to have connections someplace to like help do something?
That was the only thing that made me think otherwise, right? Where is he getting all this information from? I'm not convinced, but I love it because
I
it's
mean,
like,
I could totally see it. I got one foot on that train.
because it's
But
like it's just at the edge.
it'll suck if we find out he is a hallucination because now all this stuff he said he could do, he can't do.
The Sixth Sense, right? Because that's exactly what that was, basically. Only he wasn't a hallucination, he was a ghost, but still.
Let's be honest. When you watch The Sixth Sense from 20 years ago, did you actually see that coming? I didn't.
The first time? Heck no, I did not.
Well, that's the only time that matters.
Right. Well, that's one of the things I love about The Boys because you never know what they're going to do. Like, it is like, what?
Flying sheep. It flashes to the sheep in one of their promos. And because of the way it opens its mouth, my brain automatically went to, oh my God, it's a capybara. It's a capybara. Not
It's
a
a
capybarnia.
capybarnia.
Not a capybarnia. Although technically, I guess it would be because what do you call something like that? Anyway, so no, I wanted to say some things that Francisco was saying. Mother's Milk is also very authentic and they don't stray from his personality. Yeah, I mean, he's the straight man, oddly, but his whole thing is, it feels like, because of his OCD, but also his life and what he's thrust himself into, his lack of control. And that's what's making him break out in hives. He can't control any given situation at home or in his team. And I like that they focused more on that right from the start of the show because he needs more attention. Outside of them constantly changing his facial hair with every scene, by the way, they're still doing it. My problem is that Frenchie is facing a past that he can't do anything about and his growth can't be procured there. Same with Kimiko. The arcs are straying for what doesn't really matter. What do you think about that? I don't like discounting Francisco's take because it's very easy to be impatient when it comes to plot development.
It depends on what you are looking for in a show. For Francisco, that isn't something that he's interested in. It doesn't mean he's right or wrong. It's just his opinion. So that's how he feels about it. I mean, this is, again, personally my opinion. It's not right or wrong, but the redemption arc is part of why we love Frenchie. And I have the feeling that something's going to happen. Of course, he's not going to go to prison or he's going to get busted out or something. Maybe they give him V. I don't know. I think everybody on the show is going to end up getting V at some point.
Just to give Francisco a little chum, I feel like there is the element of will they, won't they with Kimiko and Frenchie. But in this season, it feels a little off because, well, obviously because of what we said in the last episode. And this episode kind of confirms it. The goods are too great to be able to feel like they can share it with one another. Meanwhile, they don't know that they both have things that they can't feel like they don't share. If only they knew. And Kimiko has the balls to actually contact Frenchie at the end of the episode, but he has already decided to turn himself in to the police authorities people. So that being said, in a way, that will they, won't they is still there, but I can agree with Francisco. That trope is a bit tired and that they're doing it with these two characters that didn't have a problem beforehand. They had a relationship that we didn't need to really care or know about. It was fine the way it was, but they're like messing with it in this season. I don't mind it, by the way. It's just if they keep it going too long, it could be tiresome.
Right. I don't want to see it drag on until next season. They've got to go one way or the other, but will they, won't they is important to keep a show going, especially for people who are very invested in that storyline. Because once they will they, the suspense is over. They will they'd.
Yeah, game theory.
So
right?
I like it when shows put men and women together and they don't make it a love story. Like, thank you. They can just be friends. It's okay.
Although, let's talk to Rachel for a hot sec. So I love doing this because we kind of brought it up in the last episode. Now that we've had time to think about it, we saw this episode. Do you think that they're in love with one another on that level more than just a Daryl Carol soulmate-ish thing?
I do. I see Frenchie and Kimiko a little more romantic than Carol and Daryl, specifically. If we're comparing those two relationships.
Right. Because it's a good comparison, right?
Yeah, I think so. I do see Frenchie and Kimiko much more romantic with each other. It's a different kind of
circumstance.
Yeah, I don't want to call it like an open relationship because I don't even know that they necessarily like had any sort of talk, and like nothing's going to come between that.
That's fair and good because I think when we first meet Frenchie slash and then eventually in the same episode, Kimiko, right?
Yeah.
The dynamic between them had to be platonic. He wanted to feel like she was safe with him for the longest time. And then eventually, because of that safety, they grew into one another. It wasn't apparent at first. They didn't knock you over the head with it. They made it clear there is a separation between these two. He seems to be the only one she trusts. You know what? Talk about serious. That was one of the things that helped hook me to the show was that there are men in this world, in our world, that you can be safe around. And it just feels like increasingly, you want to talk about social. We talked about political in the last episode, but it feels like more and more these days, there's this overwhelming fear that men are not safe to be around. And I feel like that we're eroding the fact that there are good men out there too. And Frenchie's a good example of like a man who can make someone feel safe and draw them in and then give them time and patience to come around and maybe take a few bruises from a superpowered regenerating soup, and then make them come around and bring them over to their side. And it's like they're smuggling in a premise too into the show that it doesn't always have to be about killing soups. That you don't have to do that. I'm not saying the show's forgotten about that, but I think that's coming. Becca says it. There's another way that we're not seeing. Butcher's hallucination of Becca, essentially. Bringing in Ryan. You don't have to give Vicky the info that Huey has on her. There could be another way. Part of his take on JDM, by the way, was that he was kind of upset, and I don't disagree with it too much, that if Kessler is a hallucination, he feels bad for JDM, basically. It's like, oh, he's just relegated to hallucination. It's like, I don't know. That it's a key part of Butcher's personality is what I like about it. And then JDM becomes an extension of Butcher, which is fine by me. That part of his personality.
The devil.
Yeah.
Negan, right? Clearly, Victoria Newman is still expressing that she's pretty powerful. That she's able to affect Starlight to that extent. But wait, what is up with Starlight's powers though?
I don't think that was Newman.
I don't think that was Newman. I think she's stressed.
It's like Spider-Man, basically. When Spider-Man's powers flicker.
She's got the yips.
Yeah.
The yips.
Yeah, that's it. When she punched Newman out, and Newman's like, "Oh yeah, you got your stuff together." Like she just totally 100% is losing it, and that her powers are going with it.
Silver lining to that, by the way, soups are terrifying across the board. We see that with Huey's dad. It's
Oh my
terrible.
gosh. That was when Dennis got mad and was like, and quit watching it, pretty much. When Huey Sr. ran through the guy in the
I'm
bed,
a nice guy.
and he was like turning around and like the guts and stuff were coming out. Dennis was like, I'm out.
No matter who you are, when you get powers, it changes you. If you have powers and you've had them for a long time, you start learning that, you get treated, you get entitlements, right? People
So
treat you differently. You have to be very careful in the world.
I've said it before.
Or not.
I think that the powers are like the one ring of power. You may want to use them for good, but inevitably it's going to end up doing bad. And I feel like that with Ryan, especially at the end, when he gets a taste of using the good power, but using it for evil at the same time, right? He got a taste of that. The way he just sipped on the milkshake with a blank face, like I was like, oh man.
And actually drinking from the milkshake, which he refused, which is like the milkshake's an allegory for being on Homelander's side. It's funny.
Newman is trying to do good by saving her daughter, but what she's doing is inherently evil overall. Like she's killing. Look at these poor sheep and that poor bunny, poor Mr. Fuzzy Buzzy. That was the name on the cage.
Is it really what it was? Oh, boy.
Yes.
Oh, my God.
Look at what happened. The V got into the water supply. What if that had happened in the city? So it's just like the Ring of Power. And that another big theme throughout the show is people that are trying to do good, what they think is good, are really end up doing even more damage. Huey, for example, with Huey C doing what he thought was good, and look at what it did. It caused way more damage. And it caused damage to his dad. This episode almost made me cry. I've never cried in The Boys except with laughter. This was like the Futurama episode with Seymour, the dog.
At the end of the episode, she realizes Samir's gone and feels like Samir or her family, what she's making for herself. Again, we're touching on family, future, kids, our relationship to our kids, what we do to ensure that they can survive and have a future. She feels like she needs to soup her daughter, Zoe. She feels like that's the right move, but instead she doesn't realize the burden that she's placing on her by giving her these powers. And also the responsibility that she has to have around everybody else that she had. And she was lucky that she had Stan Edgar to guide her, but what if he didn't exist? for her. And which is why at the end he busts her out. She's desperate. Samir was her rock.
Marie is what happens if you don't have Stan Edgar to guide you.
But which one's Marie again?
From Gen V with the blood powers.
Oh, yeah. Spiky blood everywhere, basically. But and Victoria was sort of like that for Marie, right? In a way, when she comes in, oh, you have blood powers. I can help you.
Well, she said, I thought I was the only one that had those powers.
Right, exactly. I'm sticking with Vicky for this one because when she freaks out about where's Samir,
we have never seen her like that.
And it's never more apparent. I'm looking at Starlight. I'm looking at Frenchie. And they're like, I've never seen this side of her. She's always been a rock. She's always presented herself in a very well-adjusted, which is the very thing that makes me terrified, by the way, is her well-adjustedness. Also, great to have. You can control your powers. You don't have to fly off the handle and explode heads left and right. You're using them deliberately. But on the other hand, there's something scary about somebody, a soup in this world with confidence and assertiveness and self-assuredness, because what can they do with that? Who are they going to target? What are they motivated by, too? So when they see her break down and lose it, they felt something. You could see it in their faces. They feel something. She's like us in a way. She has a life. She was a person.
Yeah, well, she wasn't Homelander raised in an oven, right?
Right. Freaking out and losing his mind.
When Sage was talking to him and he was just like, yo, he's about to lose it.
I'm starting to come around on that whole campaign to get Tony Starr was it the Emmy, the Oscar, Emmy? What is the one for TV?
Emmy.
I mean, I am coming around on that.
The way he can just change on a dime. He's charming but terrifying at the same time. You never know what in the world to expect out of Homelander. Like, anytime he's in a scene with anybody, that person,
but yeah,
he's gonna kill somebody in this scene. Like,
the fact that in some ways he can get some of us, or maybe even most of us, to feel a little for him.
Oh, I definitely feel
in the
for
nuance in his performance.
Any other child tortured like he was, everybody feel bad for them. They would be like, oh, you're poor kid. But this kid was treated and tortured in unimaginable ways, and people think that's not going to mess him up. We just don't have superpowers. But any of us would be nuts if we got tortured in the way he did.
To a degree, right? We had the luxury of having people to guide us and rear us and
I'm
love
sorry,
us.
but I have a wonderful mom and I have a wonderful family. But if somebody in my childhood stuck me in an oven and burned me until tears sizzled off my cheeks, I would still be a messed up person today. That would have nothing to do with it. You're still going to be really screwed up. I just don't have superpowers. I can't laser eye people or fly or anything like that. So,
by the way, whenever you say Ashley should just take V, she should go crazy, I'm like, no, she shouldn't. That's one more thing we have to keep track of, first of all, especially after this episode.
I really, really thought that she was going to this episode because the way she looked at the news guy.
Slide away. Exactly. Francisco put a gif of Tom from Tom and Jerry, the old cartoon, a gif. Get over it. Astrology.
He put peanut butter in Discord?
Yes, he put peanut butter in Discord, and it was Tom from Tom and Jerry slinking away, just with that evil look on his face. It was exactly like Ashley looked when he saw Cameron Cole about to get the poop beat out of him.
I love that she got two birds with one stone, right? She got revenge on Cameron Cole and A-Train's problem.
Yeah.
He said he wanted a Dom who was a Dom. I guess he got it.
Be careful what you wish for. Well, I'm curious, do you think this takes Ashley down a certain path? I think this is the first time she's taken an action that's caused the end of someone's life. He's gone. He's dead. He's done.
You could hear him squelching. Like,
no, you could hear him, and then you couldn't hear him after that. You heard of him, pieces of him.
Francisco says, Fuzzy Buzzy was the name of a wolf in the comics that killed Dakota Bob. Some comics facts for you guys. Makes sense him being there because all those animals were V'd. I think they teased Butcher's powers on how it looks with the bunny. That could be why he freaked out so bad when he saw it.
The bunny was on temp V. When it looked at Butcher's veins or his head, the side of his head, and it showed, at least in 2 episodes, how it was kind of
that little wormy thing.
Yeah, that was weaving through his brain, etc. We suspect that when it cut during the Ezekiel fight scene, and he was just about to, he passes out. We kind of feel like that's what actually happened. Something tentacly went out and took care of Ezekiel.
I didn't think about that. I just figured he just blacked out and ripped Ezekiel to pieces. I was listening to somebody, and I'm sorry I can't credit them because I do not remember who it was. So I'm sorry, whoever, if you listen to this, because cancer is a parasite, right? It's his cancer that has gotten superpowers.
That has the powers.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, because I thought about it, I was like, who actually has the powers in this dynamic? And who got the compound V? Because it wasn't Butcher. It was his cancer. His brain. That must scare him too. That's the thing that's inside of him right now. And so he's stopping it. I was like, no, sorry, Fuzzy Buzzy. No.
We've been watching everybody's heads get blown up and people get their guts ripped open, and I'm like the only one I felt bad for was the rabbits. Like, oh, poor bunny. I didn't care about the dude in the bed. I didn't care about the random guy with his heart ripped out, like whatever. But poor little bunny just kind of stomped.
That is reality. We don't care about them because we don't care about them. They're not the people we're following.
I liked that Kamiko saw him do that, though. Let the bunny go, all gentle, and took the bunny out and set it down. The Becca is still in him.
It could be him too. It's kind of like what you said about the ghoul and the dog. Like, oh, it softened him. There's something about animals. I don't disagree. I'm not a monster. Francisco says Ashley was really Tom there. She thrown Coleman onto the fire. Now her time is ticking because she will be the last to be dealt with. You don't want it to happen.
No, not at all. And I'm only saying this because of how much I love Colby. I want something to happen to Sage. I want Sage out of the picture so that Ashley can go back to actually doing her job instead of just being this figurehead for the company. I don't like Colby right now.
I do because I like for my lady characters to break bad and go off on people.
I don't mind that part of it. What I don't like is that I see her further and further into the background. I don't like that. I want her front and center doing the things that Ashley needs to do.
Yeah. I just feel like she got a taste of it now. Like she did something really twisted and she's like, you know what? I'll keep doing this. Yeah. I
Boy,
like
that's
my
her
lady
power.
characters to go a little crazy and mess some stuff up.
So I was right about why she doesn't decide to flush the toilet because, like I said, she has a taste of this. This is who she is. That's her prime directive. She doesn't want to change. If it's between her having to change and not climb the ladder and not grab the ring and not be what she was meant to be or survive, well, you can do both, but I'm still going to get my satisfaction. That's the key
What
to
if
the
she
story.
really is a soup, but like her superpowers is like administration? So she really is a soup. She just has really crappy powers.
Well, it kind of goes to Stan Edgar's comment, though. This is what I think is that he's right. How are you people still alive? How's Ashley still alive?
That made me laugh so hard.
But it's true because the premise of the boys is such that how is it even possible for them to even beat the Soups? Besides the fact that they are so flawed on an emotional and cognitive level, and that's how you can get them.
And they're so busy squabbling amongst themselves that they don't so much care. I mean, they know Butcher is after them. And like I said, you think they couldn't find Butcher if they really wanted to? They're in the Flatiron building.
Yeah, it's the thinnest building in New York City.
The least that they are worried about. I'm going to be more worried about Sage or losing my mind or my son not wanting me. Like, they have bigger problems than the boys. That's why they haven't already killed them.
Or they're making the bigger problems than they should be. Even from the beginning episodes, oh, they're worried about their entertainment deal or contract or being on the first save or just getting the limelight. It's that vanity. And then it changes. They start becoming self-aware. And welcome to the show, talking about self-awareness, Punky Brewster. That's Bridget.
Bridget!
AODishify.com/Punky Brewster.
Hi.
UNKYBRUISETER. Let's go back to the beginning because I don't want to do this, but I feel like I have to do this so we can all get a laugh out of this. But the phase 7 through 14 or whatever it was,
Oh
basically they're
my
at
gosh.
this
Yeah.
V52 Expo, which is like the Hall H at New York Comic Con for Marvel, basically. We're going to reveal phases 1 through 99.
It was like 2 through 17 or something.
They said 7 through 14, I think it was, but they only showed on the screen 7 through 10. Phase 7 is Training A-Train, which we saw the trailer to, and we saw him filming. Okay. Homelander, Land of the Free, Home of the Saves. This is even funnier. The 7 Reborn, and then we'll get to the other titles involving the 7. Super School.
Okay, so here's the thing. I think that the original working title for Gen V was Super School. I think that is an in joke.
Okay. Well, I wanted to mention something that I learned after we'd recorded our episode last week. What Homelander was scripted to do when he went home, quote unquote, and visited the scientists, he was supposed to actually demolish that place, just immediately kill everybody. But Anthony Starr actually fought to draw that scene out and torture these people psychologically first and then violently later. This is further reinforcing the campaign, getting him the Emmy, essentially. So I thought that was a pretty cool detail that I did not know about until social media, ironically enough.
I have nothing but like the highest regard for Tony Stark because I can't see anybody else playing it the way he does. He's perfect for it. He has the perfect look, the perfect demeanor.
And I could see an argument from the readers of the comics that say, oh, that's not Homelander. But as far as this television universe and what they're trying to do with him, he gets that iteration of Homelander. He's either that or he's making it his own. And I'm digging it hardcore. Back to the phases. Continuing with phase 7, we've got Firecracker, Lord Soldier, The Deep, Secrets of Atlantis, and the Tech Knight. We like the Dark Knight. Okay. Phase 8, it gets funnier. The Deep, Lifeguard Summer, The Seven Returns, the Tech Knight, Nightlight. Before I say this one, G2 is like their X-Men, basically. So G2, G-Men. Homelander and Soldier Boy, Annihilation. Because it's like their take on, I think, Batman v Superman. A-Train, Off the Tracks. So there's like a trilogy, basically, of this A-Train coming up the ranks. Firecracker, Heaven's Miracle. Oh, and then we have Teenage Kicks being brought back in. This is what they were mentioning about A-Train and Sister Sage. They were in Teenage Kicks. So Teenage Kicks, Home for Kwanzaa 2. Okay.
Meaning there was a first
Phase
one.
9 did so well they made a sequel. Phase 9, Double Standard. They did reshoots of reshoots, making it the most expensive television show in history. The Deep, Gods and Dolphins. A-Train, Into the Multiverse. All of a sudden, the two movies where he's learning to be the superhero, all of a sudden they throw him into, well, I guess they did that to Peter Parker in the Marvel universe. They threw him into the multiverse.
It could be a Flash joke.
It's a hybrid, absolutely, because they did that to Peter Parker in his third movie-ish.
I know, but the Flash also has super speed, like A-Train.
And also had a multiverse.
Firecracker, God Help Me. Teenage Kicks, Ditch Day, exclamation point. Homelander, Justice Served, obviously. Black Noir, Back to Hanoi 3. Okay, so there was 2 other Back to Hanois, or maybe Return to Hanoi. Anyway, The Seven Forever is like Batman Forever. A Dark and Stormy Night, because a Tech Knight, yeah. And then G3 G-Men, the thing that you were talking about, is in phase 10. So that's also making fun of the original movies with Hugh Jackman, right? Because it was X, X2, X3. Phase 10, Silent Vengeance 3, Vengeance Reloaded. The Guardians of Godolkin. This is where it starts to get a little interesting because I was excited to see Guardians of Godolkin is getting their own movie. Then it's called Flipped. Speedwalkers 2, Mall Race, exclamation point. Speedwalkers? What are they, New Yorkers? Obviously. Firecrackers, A Christmas Wish. Oh, my God, touching. Okay, this is my favorite one. Let There Be Night.
Props to whoever comes up with this stuff because these are just brilliantly ridiculous.
How can we lambast this superhero fatigue that we're experiencing currently? This is the one you were thinking of, Rachel. G-Men, Days Past from the Future. It's mocking Days of Future Past from the X-Men. And Back to the Future, by the way. Okay, that's it. That's what we saw. But obviously there were 4 more phases that have yet to come. And I love how they also make fun of themselves when Cameron Cole says, and we're going to go into all of them in excruciating detail. We're not even hiding it.
Francisco says the Deep is so stupid at this point. You love him for his stupidness. When he told Cameron Cole that he was going to F his wife, and then he said, I don't have to come up for air.
I can just breathe from her juices. Juices!
He didn't have to add that part. He could have just left it there. That's like Dave explaining the joke. We get it.
It makes it so much better that he did, though. See, because
it
can breathe underwater and your wife has juices, guys. This show's
The
graphic
other,
on a multitude of levels.
The other thing I loved was the regional product placement.
Oh my
where
God.
People in
Oh, that was so terrible.
I love that it panned to the audience and the black people had exactly the look on their face that I did, where I was like, that's not a good idea. Peach cognac? Get out of here, dude. Who doesn't?
My gosh.
And I hate an IPA, Dave.
I could talk so much more about this, but I really want to move on from this. It's so uncomfortable. But I love that the black man that they panned to was in a Homelander costume too, which is just this weird cognitive dissonance after the last season.
Oh, I know.
Or no, sorry, the season before.
If we're kind of addressing race at this point because of the show.
Are we? Why are we still here?
Do we have to?
When Homelander says that he was told where to stand and where to sit, and it was just like being a slave, only worse.
I had a feeling you'd bring that up. We're emancipating us from slavery. He says it.
I was like, what? This man is, I mean, we all know he's insane, but like his lack of grounding to reality is
No, but he made it up, Bridget. That's what's so funny about it, is that he thinks he's making this up. He didn't learn this. He's like, oh, I just invented something. You know what? I'm an abolitionist of soup oppression. He's saying I'm the freer of slaves. We'll get to actually substantive conversation as it pertains to this at some point. But thank you for bringing that up, Charity. It was funny. And there is something interesting there, too. At first, when Homelander is actually dropping the BS with Ryan and not being a creepazoid with him and weird and oppressive, and he wants to emancipate him, as he says, I actually thought it was kind of touching. You don't want to do it? Don't do it.
it's like for a second you were like,
For a
"Oh,
second.
is this gonna work?" And then he's like, slap him again, slap him again. And then you're like, oh no.
That was Ryan. That was all Ryan.
Wasn't that satisfying? Because I was like, yeah, dude, he deserves
yeah, for
it.
like
No.
2 slaps. Like after that, it's like, no, it's the going to the milkshake. It's like,
That's what it was, right? We mentioned this a little bit. That was
When
unsettling.
he took a sip of the milkshake with the blank face, I was, I was like, yep, okay, this is great. I love it.
Well, and maybe that is something, because here's what I was worried about at the end of the show. What you said, Sharon, in the last episode, and what many people have said also, is that Ryan is going to be the one to save the day or defeat Homelander or etc. He's going to grow out of this and be the hero that he wants to be. And we get a taste of that at first when he says to Homelander, you're going to think I'm stupid and corny. I want to save people, not stage saves. I want to save people. And Homelander says, I think it's fantastic. I think it's excellent. And then it changes because Homelander is his father. He's modeling his behavior after his father. But like you said, it's unsettling because what does that mean? What does that look like? And then you pair it to the end scene. The end scene of him saying we have to be wrathful gods. We have to stop worrying about people caring about how we look like or our image. We have to do things that are going to be disturbing that people may not even like. So when you take that back to Ryan and what Ryan actually wants, do you still believe that Ryan is going to be the one to save the day?
Yeah,
And that's fine.
I mean, this is something new. Like he's like, oh, I just discovered this new thing that lets me have power. But I don't think he's going to stick with it. I think he's going to realize that it's not right, that he's still doing it wrong. This is what my mom would have wanted me to do. And he's going to realize that having poor, whatever his name is, almost beat to death by an intern or whatever, is not what his mom would have wanted. But maybe Butcher will make him see the point or something. I think that Ryan is going to realize that what he's doing is not right, and he'll still be the one to take out Homelander. That's pretty trope, though. So, the boys has a way of flipping the script on us. So I'm probably wrong. I'm never right about things. So,
If anything, it's what you want to see. And that's fine because it makes it that much more sweet when it doesn't go your way. You don't want to know what's going to happen. You want that twist. You want that, whoa, mind-blowing twist. I want to go to Bridget on this one because I feel like you might have this idea. Ryan has not had a father figure in his life. He's had a mother figure, and they've actually had some static with each other here and there too. You got to see that a little bit between Becca and Ryan a little bit. And I could see it. He wants a father figure. You can see that from him. He wants Homelander to be the person that Becca would be okay with. And when he starts being that way, you can do whatever you want to do. You know what? Do what makes you feel most comfortable. It's as if the door was finally open for him to not be terrified. And maybe I can live with this. It's not the fact that Homelander made that possible. It's that Ryan wants it so badly. That's what it is. If he had the wherewithal to actually see through Homelander, then he would see it and then it would be fine. But it's not that. Sometimes people are motivated by their own self-interest, and that is his self-interest right now as a father figure. I'm torn between two worlds. My mom is dead. And so what does this kid have left? So he's going to latch onto that father figure that he's so sorely wanted for the whole part of his life until now. So I want to know what you thought about Bridget, because I feel like you might have something to say about her.
So I don't blame Brian for that. He's a kid who lost his mom. He doesn't have another parent. He's looking to fill that void with someone. It doesn't seem like anyone else in the tower even remotely desires to make a connection with this kid. The only people who talk to him outside of Homelander are the execs who are like, I'm trying to sell you on this idea. It's not genuine. Because like Homelander has said, like everyone has said, they're always going to be afraid of you. I'm sorry, but if tomorrow we woke up and there were suddenly people who could run 1,000,000 miles per hour or kill you in an instant, you would be terrified of them. We can all sit here and say like, no, we'd be okay with it because like equal rights, but like, no, you wouldn't. I'm sorry, you just wouldn't, because it would have come out of nowhere and you wouldn't have had time to process that.
And prejudices are a natural part of who we are too.
And
Tribalism.
you don't, there's tribalism, but also you fear the unknown.
Absolutely,
We
yeah.
fear the unknown. So
Just like
anyway,
the animals in the show, as much as you're like, oh, the poor sheep and the poor bull. It's like,
it's
no,
terrifying.
they're terrifying monsters that need to be put down because they used to be fuzzy animals.
My fear for Ryan is that Homelander's pouring into him over and over and over again. People are nothing. They're
Toys
insects.
for our
They're
amusement.
toys for us. And yes, Ryan can be like, no, my mom was a human. Like, she wasn't like that. But that's still someone that he's put on a pedestal above others. And he hasn't really interacted with other people outside of that. Because remember, they were kept away from everyone. So not only is this kid suffering from the trauma of losing his mother in a really horrible way, and then also all of the drama of like the man that he most looked up to told him, I don't want you anywhere near me, and Harry and the Hendersons him.
Wait, hold on. Explain that a bit.
At the end of Harry and the Hendersons, John Lithgow goes out and takes Harry into the woods and throws rocks at him and yells, go on, we don't want you anymore. And it's horrible. Anyway, that's what Butcher did. So not only all of that, but he's got hardcore homeschool energy. He's been only with like 2 people his entire life. So he doesn't have the social skills to understand that there are other people out there in the world that feel different things. He doesn't know how to gauge them based on their facial expressions or the tone of their voice. Like, he doesn't know any of that.
All he's had is his mother.
I'm worried because I feel like that now that he's getting positive attention from Homelander, that's going to be enough to be like, oh, cool. He is my dad now and he's fine.
And he's interested in myself and my well-being.
And he wants me to be happy. And that's great because that's all I've ever wanted. So I worry that having Bonnie slap Adam and just sitting there and like enjoying that, that's playing with your toys.
Yes.
So I called it the Ring of Power. He will use the Ring of Power to do good works, but it will end up being evil. So he is trying to do good while he is helping Bonnie. It's also not the right thing to do.
It's not justice.
Homelander's not going to remain this calm and father-like. Like, he's going to end up lasering
he's
someone's head.
Clearly having a mental breakdown.
Something's going to happen in front of Ryan. And Ryan's going to be like, wait a minute, this is the same guy who was manipulating me. Because Homelander's like, people have been manipulating me my whole life. And now it's the cycle. He's been manipulated, so now he's going to manipulate Ryan. Or Butcher's going to reach out somehow and do something that is going to make Ryan change his mind.
Glad you went here. I don't know if we're saying the same thing, but I'm actually thinking that Homelander's found a path forward because the framework in which he proclaims his new world order is because we have to leave the world in a better place for our kids, our sons, our daughters, but my son. And that's, I think, all he cares about is his son. When he says it earlier, and it was really heartfelt, at least to hear, was, as far as I'm concerned, the rest of the world is empty, save for you and me. And I love that. That's how it should be. Well, I mean, and whoever else you care about, essentially. But when you love somebody, you want to let them know that, even if the rest of the world was gone, and if it was you and me, I'd be ecstatic because I have you. I'm lucky enough to have you. It's like a girlfriend too, or a wife. You're the only one in the world that matters. But then you go to the end and you realize, oh, we said this about Otto Hightower, that maybe all his machinations, all the things that he's doing, and maybe he expresses love in the wrong way at the time, but he's doing this all for her to have a better life, for her to be able to have some power, maybe a little for himself, but still, Homelander is framing all of this. All he cares about is to give this kid a better life. And what he feels like he has to do it, I'm very curious to see. So instead of being crazy and unhinged, I think he's focused now. Is it the right thing? Is he going to do it the right way? No, it's Homelander. Although I did propose something in the premiere chat yesterday when we premiered this episode. I was thinking this thing out loud. Ironically, is Homelander going to end up being the hero of this story? And 50% of people said yes. The choices were an actual hero, an actual villain. He's going to do what he's going to do was one of the choices. But 50% of people said he's going to be an actual hero, actually saving people or the world.
I'm not sold on that. I'm not sold on that at all. He's already staring off 1,000 miles. He's not okay.
Keep in mind, it's before this episode.
I mean, for a show that totally shatters common tropes, that's like the tropiest trope of all, the bad guy turning out to be the real hero. So I don't think that's going to be it.
I would agree with you. It's a trope if he sacrifices himself in order to save someone, then yes.
So say Brian is getting sick from the virus or something and he sacrifices himself for the cure or
that
something
would
like
be a trope.
which I
Yep.
could totally see happening if he really loves. So he finds love at the end and really discovers what love. I just don't see the show going that way. I feel like Homelander is going to go off the chain and something really awful is going to happen. Like
in that scenario, I feel like because it's the boys, I feel like he'd be like, no, we did what we could. He died doing what he loved. That's how it would be.
Died doing what he loved, visiting all of the sites in Paris from the Da Vinci Code.
Oh, good segue though.
I am really worried about Ryan. He's a child and he's vulnerable, and every child wants their parents' approval and even the tiniest little bit of this acceptance. And he's like, are you sure you're not mad? And he says, no, if you don't want to do this, don't do it. And for a second I was like, okay, he's trying. And I do wholeheartedly think that it's genuine
In his
for
own messed
Ryan.
up
Yes.
Homelander way. Yeah, I agree.
Yes, but he's going to eventually be our hero. Definitely not. I don't know if Ryan is going to be the one to take Homelander down or not. I'm not ready to say yes or no to that. Are they doing something to Ryan's voice?
No, that was talked
Like in
about.
editing, when he speaks, all I can hear is Lady Elaine Fairchild.
So from Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood, but actually, so this was brought up in on his Instagram. He said puberty's a bitch.
Because there are moments where it sounds almost generated. It's not like a puberty voice crack I hear. It almost sounds mechanical.
Yeah,
That's
like
why
a
that's why I was
auto-tune.
asking.
Yeah, Cameron Corvetti's the actor, by the way.
We talk a lot about child actors, and I don't know how old the actor is, but I think he's doing a phenomenal job. I like that Ryan's instincts are to do good.
Isn't that everybody though?
No, it's not everybody. That's the whole point of the show.
I think he wanted to do good. They tortured him and just messed him up so bad.
Homelander's a lot like Negan. He thinks he is doing good.
Well, if you watch the Diabolical episode with Homelander, he ends up killing a whole bunch, but it was all accidental. So I think he wanted to do good, but as he got older, he just got more cynical.
Well, the more mistakes he made covered it up. He knew he could get away with it.
Just like everybody else, getting in there and seeing how Vought works. Starlight is our view into you go in there innocent and ready to do good, and then you realize what a backstabbing, cutthroat place it is where nothing is real. This is like politics where you go in wanting to do good and you end up getting corrupted by the system. So they go in with great intentions, but it ends up going bad because that's just the way the system works and there's no way to get around it.
The system corrupts, or the meat grinder, let's call it, because it affects everything. I wanted to pair this actually with Butcher. So now that he's seeing Kessler and he's acting diabolically, one of the things that's easy to forget is that the reason why he saw Becca to begin with, and it started to soften, just like Kessler says, even though MM calls him out on it in this episode saying, you may be an MFer, but you're not a monster. And yet he's going this way. And what I thought of in that moment as he's looking at the camera all evil-like at the end was, while Homelander is grooming Ryan for greatness or for whatever Ryan wants to do in whatever way he wants to do it, which is actually really the point, is he's showing him this is the world that you live in and you have the powers of a god. I turn back to Butcher and I say, dude, I know what world you're living in, and I know that the audience wants diabolical Billy Butcher, but is that what your son's gonna want? This has me thinking. Are you building the world for your kids right now, Billy Butcher? Maybe he can twist himself in a pretzel and convince himself, like Homelander, that this is the way to go. This is why sometimes I'll slip and I'll say Homelander instead of Billy Butcher, because aren't they, in a way, a horseshoe effect? They're the exact opposite of the spectrum, but they can horseshoe around and exhibit this kind of behavior. So what do you think about Billy going to the dark side, let's say? Because MM says, I have a daughter to get back to, which is basically him saying, you have a son to save, when they talk about hoofing it and taking the virus with them, wasting a whole bunch of people along the way.
Butcher is desperate. He wants Homelander stopped. Part of it is vengeance. Part of it is trying to save Ryan. I think it's a mixed bag for Becca, but he's desperate because he knows his time is very limited. I mean, it was just reiterated to him through that rabbit. what's going to happen to him. We've seen it worming its way all around his body.
So you're saying he's still afraid that there's not enough time to do what he needs to do. Time's
He's
running out for
desperate.
him.
He's like, with my remaining hours, I have to do something. And so the only answer that he can think of is give that virus to Homelander. That's the only way to stop him.
Am I the only one not convinced that Butcher's gonna die?
I'm with you on that. I'm not 100% sure. The whole Ezekiel being murdered through some sort of blackout situation has me wondering what is going on with that. Yeah, I'm
Whatever
not
is
sold
going
on
on,
it.
the Ezekiel scene made me think it, but also they're shoving it in our faces
Yeah.
so hard. And I'm like,
That he's going to die, you're
no.
saying.
Yeah.
Right.
Like, I just don't see it. I don't think it's going to happen.
Yeah, and I'm with you, actually. I think I'm wholly convinced that the temp V cancer in his brain got the compound V, not him.
Yeah. Well, and Francisco had a beautiful.
He had said in our Discord that if you want a picture of what Butcher's going through, it's a lot like Venom from the Marvel Universe. Peter Parker's foe. It's a symbiotic relationship. So it's not in the the brain cancer self-interest to kill its host.
He said it's basically like the episode in Diabolical where the grandma gets injected with V and her cancer turned into a living organism, though Butcher's cancer living organ is much darker.
What a tease. I feel like that's exactly what's going on.
Yeah, as soon as I read that, I was like, I forgot about that episode.
I did not watch Diabolical. It's
There
the one
are
thing I didn't
only
watch.
2 episodes of Diabolical that are considered canon, and that is the grandma one and the Homelander one. As far as not dying, we saw the tentacles come out of the bunny. What if that cancer just leaves him and that's how he survives because he's not dying from cancer? The cancer came alive and exited his body.
Well, I think it would still need a host to stay alive and survive.
Well, no, because it killed the rabbit.
Wait, no,
Maybe-
you're right, because this is the other thought I had. Okay, just to complete your circle. The cancer from the rabbit was reaching out to the cancer in Billy Butcher, right? There's a weird connection that he has with it,
Ew.
right? So maybe the cancer realized that its host was dying. And he was like, well, yeah, I can live off of you because you have the same brain cancer.
Come here, come closer.
Francisco says, like I said in Discord, Ryan is Homelander's kryptonite because he's the only one that he can't kill with something he can't have love. And I thought, this is great because Ryan is just a redo of what the scientists did. Votek's greatest investment, which was getting Homelander to feel that he needs the approval of his overseers, etc. Ryan is that embodied in a person. And it's his main focal point now. Well, I don't want to disappoint my kid. In fact, I want to build this world for my kid now. Oh, interesting, though. So I like that. We had said Brian is going to end up being his kryptonite. Emotions, humanity is going to be his kryptonite. If he's actually the one killing Homelander, I won't be mad because nobody else can touch Homelander's strength. No Black Noir twists now. Lol. But see, this is what gets me wondering, because we keep thinking there's going to be a confrontation, a big battle, so much money being poured into it, giving himself hives over the amount of money that he's going to have to get from Amazon to get this big battle going, whatever it is, right? But I'm not thinking it's any of that. Because, like I said about Kimiko, right? Wanting to feel safe, thinking of another way to deal with a problem. I feel like winning looks like not doing that. Winning looks like convincing or doing something that would actually be reasonable and rational in the real world, how we actually fix problems. That's how I see the problems being resolved in this world. The ironic twist in this cynical, upside down world where up is down, cats are mating with dogs, sisters are marrying brothers. Wait, no, that's Game of Thrones.
I don't want to see anybody really kill Homelander because then that
the
means
Ginny effect.
Well, because then that means we don't have Tony Starr anymore.
I will say, though, they announced it right when the season premiere aired with its first 3 episodes that season 5 would be its last.
I mean, if the show's going to be over, then
maybe
that's fine.
Okay.
Kripke's like, I'm not doing 16 seasons again.
Of Supernatural.
Right.
Got it. And then also for this universe, where they're talking about phases 6 through 14, it would be unironic if he continued the series for more than 5, let's say. It'd be kind of like taking shots at himself. And he was. And he felt that. Francisco says the difference between the boys and the Watchmen is how love still exists in the boys, and it can make these soups, which are all lab rats, feel human because they can't ignore it because working for a company that turned the world upside down.
He's saying love exists in the boys and not
Right,
in the
the
Watchmen.
difference between the boys and the Watchmen is love still exists in the boys, and it can make these soups, which are all lab
Feel
rats,
human.
feel human because working for a company that the world turned upside down.
So in spite of the world, they're still human. Got it. So in that sense, there's some authenticity, right? You can't escape your human emotions, which was hammered in the last episode breakdown. Ryan sounds like he's already drinking some whiskey, little milkshake. I'm actually convinced, I don't know which one of you kind of said the thing that made me think that maybe I'm not so worried about Ryan, is that maybe he's just tasting the milkshake, seeing what it feels like.
No, I was thinking there will be blood
There will
and
be
I
more
drink
milkshake.
a milkshake.
Exactly. Bridget, after you went on about Becca and Ryan homeschool effect, he is a kid and kids make mistakes or kids are led down a certain path by the wrong element. And so, I don't know, if there's a guiding hand there and hopefully it's Butcher, maybe it's MM, maybe there's hope for him. I
I
don't know.
don't want it to be Butcher. Homelander and Butcher are not good role models.
Oh my God, what if Butcher and Homelander?
Huey should raise Ryan.
It would be Huey if it was going to be
Yeah.
anybody.
Huey
Yeah.
needs to raise Ryan.
Okay, let's go here after I say Francisco says they still have that the Boys Mexico show, but I don't know what that will happen because the script hasn't been approved yet. Really?
What?
Is it going to be a Mexican version of the Boys?
Wow.
I'm glad you touched on it because I was thinking, like, wouldn't it be just a funny partnership that and also fit into the Vought-Tech cinematic universe if Billy Butcher and Homelander raised Ryan together?
In a vault.
Just there's in a vault. Yeah, exactly.
The Boys Mexico is a spin-off of the popular show and will be intricately tied into the lore of the original series and its previous spin-off, Gen V. Executive producers include Diego Luna and Gael Garza Bernal. The star-studded lineup behind The Boys Mexico also includes Gareth Duna Alcocer as a writer and Eric Kripke and Seth Rogen in creative capacities, ensuring the same vulgar and violent tone as the original. While it is unclear how The Boys Mexico will connect to the main series, it is highly likely that it will be another important piece of The Boys lore, potentially through the presence of Vought International in Mexico.
Is it going to be a Spanish speaking?
I am not 100% sure.
This seems very ambitious, by the way. I just
Yeah.
want to say that.
That was all there was in that article, and it looks like The Boys Mexico won't be hitting Prime Video anytime soon. Showrunner Eric Kripke, the mastermind behind the Boys franchise, revealed to Entertainment Weekly that progress on the spinoff is still a while away.
Yeah, so it's still in development, basically.
Yeah, the
They
team
wanna
is
figure out how
currently
they
making
wanna
the deal
roll this
with
out.
the writer for the pilot episode. So, like, that hasn't even happened, and this was last month. The initial pitch already shows promising potential. The writer still has to set the stage for episode 2. While Easter eggs and setups are big in The Boys, Kripke mentioned that they haven't even started thinking about those yet since they're still laying the foundation for the spinoff. They're not even sure yet how they're going to tie it together. He explains that he wants to avoid making viewers feel the need to watch both shows to understand the upcoming spinoff.
Yeah, I understand that. You want to go back and watch the other shows.
Mhm.
You want to be so interested in it. That thank you, Fear the Walking Dead, because you made me so interested in the world that I went back and watched The Walking
The
Dead.
Walking Dead.
So I have a broad overview idea theory. The water system, that's how the animals got beat up. I'm thinking, what if they use the water supply to spread the virus? They get Samir to use the water supply to spread it. But if they also have V in the water, then everybody has compound V in their system and everybody would die from the virus. I see why they would mention it, but to me, that's kind of like a Chekhov's gun kind of thing. Why would stuff getting into the water supply making these crazy animals if they weren't going to use it in the future?
They used it in that episode, so it's hard to say. I see where you're going. I'm not opposed to it. It's definitely the way to deliver it quickly to many people.
The Batman movie with Michael Keaton, how they put the poison or whatever in all of the beauty products. So people were afraid to use deodorant. I mean, if you're putting it in the water, it's going to go into everything. Also, kind of like The Last of Us, how everybody got the cordyceps was they ate the wheat. Water gets into everything. Everything that you have or eat is going to have water in it. You could have beef. The beef had the V in the water system, and then you eat the beef and you get the V. It's like antibiotics. They give antibiotics to animals, and then we eat the animals and we get antibiotic resistance.
It's like how wrestlers eat horse meat.
Oh, we talked about that. The doping. There's only one flaw with your virus problem is that you'd have to have so much of the virus in order for it to not dilute because the virus is a living organism. In sparse quantities, it wouldn't have any effect. It wouldn't be able to take hold. Now, if you concentrate it somehow in a vessel, or maybe if you think smaller, like the meat, let's say, or if you put it in a toothpaste, right? If you tube it and it has a sort of ecosystem in which it can thrive, and then you start brushing your teeth, that would be terrifying.
Yeah, but this is just a TV show, so they'll just say like AI or nanobots or something, and that'll be the answer to it.
Other than making the really crazy, scary sheep and chickens. I love that the guy had a nest and eggs in his stomach. They had laid eggs, and that was great. Great
I hope they
detail.
destroyed the eggs, by the way. So just to be clear, nobody cooked an omelet. I hope not. But I wanted to hit on what you just said, because as you were talking about the V and the water supply being Chekhov's gun, possibly, I was thinking to myself, what would be the thing that made soups completely irrelevant if everybody was a soup? Will they do it in this world? Maybe, actually. Maybe.
I don't know. We've
'Cause it
seen a
would-
lot of bad reactions too, though.
If you're playing the numbers game, it's just those who survive the process.
It's like a vaccine. You're putting a very small amount into your body just for that little bit, and then you don't have enough to actually give you powers.
But if you don't have powers, then are you really a soup?
The show has made a concerted effort to say that you have to have enough of it in your system for it to take hold.
They're making a virus. Maybe the virus mutates or something. I mean, who knows? They're crazy, but
Oh, I also thought another thing, by the way, because of what you said, is that they're already lambasting our culture, the show. But what if they take a shot at their version of COVID in this world? Like if a virus actually did get released. And when we were talking about the nosebleeds and working on the virus and the different iterations of the virus, yes, you said it was Vicky Newman, but I was thinking to myself, well, what if they can make it airborne? And so you'd have like a version of COVID on their show.
We're all infected.
Yeah, and then they do the social distance, all the things that we
we all
don't
turn
care
into
about
brain
now.
dead soups when we die.
Ideally,
Rip Huey Sr.
right? Keep the soup safe by social distancing. Okay, keep them safe because there are heroes.
I love that he said it's a true blue miracle.
Huey's dad.
Yeah.
You just like that he said that. Let's complete this circle. Did you stick around to actually hear the end credits?
No.
No.
Really?
Oh, the song.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No,
Old
yeah.
McDonald had a farm.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, my guys.
Yeah. Dennis does not like this show. He's watched it with me a little bit off and on, but it's too violent for him. So he came back in during the sheep attack, and when Frenchie said this man is in no condition to F a sheep, even Dennis laughed out loud. Like he just busted out laughing. And that was the best line of the entire series. I have not had anything make me laugh so hard.
This is why I love Frenchie, because he and I are both the Rose Nyland of the group.
There's a really interesting part because obviously he talks about faith, and I love him. He mentions that absolution doesn't work because there are some sins that should never be forgiven, that deserve eternal damnation. Okay, I'm sorry, I'm just going to come out and say it. It just shows like a general lack of knowledge about it. All sins deserve eternal damnation. That's kind of the whole point of
Okay, I get what you're saying.
Christianity.
No, but I think he's referring to the forgiveness of it, like how you can be forgiven even for those sins.
No,
Like
I'm
that.
saying like all sins are unforgivable. That's the gift of salvation, is that you are forgiven through salvation. I get what he's saying. Like internally, he feels like he cannot be forgiven. We've all been there, but I'm just saying like that sentence alone was inaccurate in that statement because like that's not faith at all. Then there's no faith there.
I think you're missing an important ingredient in what he's trying to say, because he says it when he mentions Kimiko, which is, I would look at her differently if she was okay with it. Yeah, that was the words. If she was okay with it, I wouldn't like that. I don't want her to be okay with it. Just like he's saying, he almost doesn't want to be forgiven because it's so horrible.
He doesn't believe that it's possible.
Right, because I've caused somebody such tremendous pain. I like that you're touching on this because it could be something that somebody's looking at and saying, well, why is he even saying this? And so I like that we can hit on that and add a little bit more to that.
It's then comes full circle because at the end he goes to the police department. It's not because he's looking for absolution. It's because he's looking for punishment.
Right, because we're all looking to feel the weight of what we've done to others.
So there's something I've wanted to kind of mention. I didn't want to cover the last couple episodes because of the Hugh stuff. Huey ignored his dad's calls, and that happened to me with my dad. And it's something I haven't really like wanted to talk about ever because it's horrible. As sad as this episode was, like that ending, what a gift they were given by being able to say goodbye to him. I begged my husband to take my dad to the hospital. That's the type of person I am. I have to work. Nobody can do anything without me. If I'm not there, it's not going to run. Prioritize that over everything. It came at a time where like some other stuff happened for me in the last couple weeks. And so I've been like, I can't do that anymore. I can't prioritize work over this stuff because this stuff is important and you don't get a second chance at saying goodbye to people. So I sent my husband with him. And by the time he was hospitalized again and I got to see him, he was gone. He was alive, but he couldn't talk. And so I didn't get to say goodbye to my dad and know 100% that he heard me. So when Huey says, I just wanted you to know that you're my hero, and I needed you to know that I needed to know that you knew that. It's just really, really, really impactful. And this is such a stupid show to have such a stunning example of what it's like to truly say goodbye to someone that you really love, especially a parent. It just says a lot about the writers, what they've clearly been through to be able to write this from that perspective. That
Yeah, I
felt
agree.
really genuine.
Start to finish also with like not picking up the call too, because that happens. It's happened
Yeah.
to you. I have to admit that that actually got me as well. I didn't want to talk about this, but I had a similar situation. My best friend had reached out to me, my best friend from New Jersey, but it's a different time. We didn't have the internet. It cost a lot of money to call my friend in another state, stuff like this. We thought it was over. We loved each other. We were really, really tight friends. And he reached out to me. I hung out with him a couple times, but there were times where he'd call or text, and he wasn't overbearing at all. Every now and again he would, and like you said, he's too busy with work. Thought work was the thing that I needed to do, or I just wouldn't call him because you know what? For some reason, I don't know what it is. Maybe it was because I felt that irrational sense that he abandoned me, but we really kind of just separated. But that feeling is still there. I'm not 100% sure why I wouldn't call him back sometimes, or why I wouldn't answer his texts, or whatever it is. And then he got sick, and then I still didn't, for maybe even more reasons, because you're thinking to yourself, that's a lot for me. I'm checking out or something, or maybe I'll focus on work rather than focus on this. So that when he died is all I could think about. There was another part of this story that makes it a whole lot worse, which is I had visited him and I wasn't feeling too well, and he was recovering from Hodgkin's lymphoma. And there's a part of me that will always have a kernel about thinking, well, did I get him sick again? Or did I make him even more sick? Which is ridiculous on its face. I know that logically. I didn't cause him to go to the hospital again or anything like that. I know that. But there's always this thing, like this guilt that keeps piling up when you don't call back. And you think that, well, obviously I did this. You already feel bad enough. Now you actually hurt him. For a long time after he was gone, I kept visiting his grave and all that stuff. I still think about him a lot, but I rationalized my way out of it. But it's something that it's the height of my shame, is that I didn't pick up his calls before and after he got sick. It was hard. He was one of my heroes. I still see him as a model. It's why I like all of you, to be perfectly honest. So you remind me of him. Good people, welcoming everybody, a little sassy. And he was a little sassy in his own way. He was a really good, genuinely good guy. He's like, imagine the guy, like a Glenn, except just so much cooler. This is my best friend.
My dad's been gone for 21 years, and it doesn't get any easier when you see something like this on screen. It is nice that obviously somebody in the writer's room knew exactly what kind of emotion to put on the screen, and these actors delivered it beautifully. I really hope that my last words on this earth are Tom Hanks.
She had to pull us back out of it, Dave. She had to.
This is what I'm talking about, girl. This is why I love you guys so much. This, because we all do it, by the way. We all do it. I'm mostly me, inappropriately, uncalled for. I wanted to say one more thing about that. Maybe it's on the other hand, but also in a twisted way. This show showed you, well, you want last words? Here they are. Not the emotional part. I'm saying, well, here's what it looks like to have your last goodbye. This horror show of your father exhibiting this exponential increase in Alzheimer's, essentially. Yeah, you could say dementia, but he's going back in time. He's oh, I have to pick up Hugh from school. It's Alzheimer's. It's a nightmare on both an emotional level and a physical level, obviously, with stuff falling out of people and hearts being ripped out of chests. But also it's looking at a side of your father that you have never seen before, too. Sorry to talk about this. The reason why his powers manifest in this way is it's exposing the deepest, darkest parts of Hugh Campbell Sr., and that is his rage. It glides past you. But you also hear, and Daphne has a reaction to this, that I felt bad for not allowing you to reconnect with Huey all these years. She hadn't known that, and Huey definitely didn't know that. But we saw Daphne's reaction to this. It hurt.
Well, she kind of knew because she told Huey in a previous episode, she said, I tried reaching out and your dad wouldn't allow it. But he's acknowledging that he
Yes.
did
That's
it.
it.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Right.
That's exactly that's the only thing I mean. But then you see that manifest in him actually unleashing that rage, that feeling. All these years, you abandoned us. Look what you did to Huey.
We've seen it time and time again. Usually we see it with depressive people who put that really happy go lucky, everything's hunky dory face forward tend to have just the deepest pools of sadness and anger and disappointment
And rage.
internally.
Yeah. Pent up rage.
You just see me when my temper flares up because there's a lot of throwing
I
stuff.
have.
There's a lot
Ooh,
of throwing
that's
stuff.
something. But you know what? It's just interesting because from a character whom is almost like a rock on the show, meaning not like the strong rock, but this constant. He's never been different. He's this weird caricature of a person that has never changed. And here he is, like everybody else, which you'll forget. Huey forgot he didn't take the call because he, like us in the audience, think this character, his father, is ridiculous. Oh, the soups are great. But obviously, right? And all this stuff, like everybody else. They're a cartoon, they're a caricature, they're a background character. But then he shows up. Oh, he's been dealing with this all this time. I didn't know that, Dad. I didn't know he had all these feelings. But let's focus on Huey Jr. It's really cool to see just growth from this character, from the Jar Jar story, why he didn't get power of attorney. And this is going to serve him later on in the series, that he may at some point have to not only execute somebody from Shining Light, which was also great to see to pair well with this scene, is like what he's capable of or what he has to be capable of, but also the emotional quotient that it takes to have to put down somebody that you actually care about. And you have to take that next step, which we never thought Huey could do. And we're seeing it here.
And he utilizes the knowledge he's gained over time. So it was a nice
With the drugs.
Yeah, it was just a nice way to see Huey has grown. So I think it's easy to look at him and much like his dad, he's just this caricature of a person, this goofy guy, and he's kind of a wuss. And he tried to fight against that with the temp fee and everything else and wanting to be strong and different and not have just a girlfriend who just protects him and not feel emasculated all of the time because he was insecure in himself. It's just nice to see that there was growth because I think sometimes we can look at him and be like, this guy hasn't done anything. He's the same.
Yeah, it's very easy. Then you see he's using his skills. He's using the things that he learned over time. He's making himself useful, not a, what did Kessler call him? Or fake devil on the shoulder for Butcher.
A gaping wet pea.
Thank you, Sharon D. Well, a gaping wet
Kitty.
vagina. We'll just
Kitty
say
cat.
that. Let's use clinical terms. Let's pair this, well, not that specifically, but what Francisco says, which I just adore. Simon Pegg really got to be emotional there, and I never get emotional with the boys. Dads and moms are everything to us. I am blessed having both. Me too. But must be hard losing a parent or have a parent stay away from their son. Also, Daphne. But to focus a little bit more on Simon Pegg, he really, really brought it. Much in the way we praise Anthony Starr for his nuanced performance, the way the facial tics, the way it's not bothering, it's bothering him. Simon Pegg brought that to a whole other level to try to first show rage, then pull back, then show confusion, show fear, cry. He just went out with a bang. I just love that for him.
Yeah, it was really great.
This episode can be his entire demo reel going forward because it shows every single emotional range.
I want to mention too that Huey steps in front of Daphne to protect her. And that is such a big moment for their relationship. And I don't want that to go unnoticed. It was really touching. The offering of the ring to him was touching enough, but then we also get.
Was it though?
Okay, so Rachel, like me, and she'll say what I thought probably.
Well, I'm going to take it back even farther in our 1 through 4 coverage. Sharon D had brought up this little nugget.
The vitality or
Yeah.
Why did she give him the V? But anyway.
Okay, so at first my spidey senses were like, but this episode they went, huh? this is the dumbest thing, but like the nicer she is, the more suspect I am of her. When she gave Huey the ring and was like, "Oh, propose to Annie with this," I'm like, "Don't you put that on her finger? There's something on it.
That's
There's
exactly
something
what
on
it
that ring."
Oh.
And also, by the way, it's not just the ring, but that crescent moon
Yeah, it was on
with
her
the
necklace.
sparkly black stuff. Immediately had the same thought. Why though? There's no real reason for us to think that. Maybe it's the way it's filmed. Really? Maybe, I don't know.
Well, they had the vitality thing, and that was a little off.
Maybe we're like Huey, or what Huey should be, and it's more mistrustful.
She tells Huey, "I thought that's what you wanted," injecting him with the V. But how would she know what Huey wants? She doesn't know anything about him. She's been gone.
I could see this. I'm
There's
not
gonna
gonna.
be a
I'm not
Daphne
gonna argue.
apologist in here. We
No,
got
no,
the
no,
simp,
no. I'm
the
not going to
cuck.
argue
No, I'm
against
kidding,
it. I'm not going to argue against it at all. Because all I thought was, how did that fall out of your pocket?
Yeah. Can we all agree that we don't want to feel this way about, especially after these scenes?
Well,
with,
yeah. After this, I
Hughes?
want
Yeah.
him to have a parent. For the love
Yeah.
of God, I want him to
Okay.
have a parent. But
Now
yeah,
go into your conspiracy theory.
it's the boys also.
We
so.
know we've
Yeah,
had
I know.
doppelganger who could turn himself into anybody. So you were just saying, how did the V fall out of his pocket? Well, as we saw with doppelganger, he could have reached in there and grabbed it. So she could be a doppelganger. When Hugh Sr. was talking about when they went on their honeymoon together, she didn't venture any information. It's all been coming from Hugh Sr. I don't remember her telling them anything. She never said anything about their marriage. All she said was that she had issues and she left.
She did pipe in a little bit when they were talking about their honeymoon. She brought up the salmonella and the double bed in the room because he was talking about how great it was, and she pointed out all the terrible things about it.
Also, on top of that, Huey was gone long enough that she could have just rifled through his coat because he went and
Yeah.
got coffee for both of them. And you know how long those machines take. But also, she did tell Huey about how she reached out and Hugh didn't put them through. And then Hugh mentioned it again later.
Right.
And so that's part of the story lines up. So I think it is her, but she's bought into Vought in some capacity because she's very close to having the pink Cadillac. It's not what it is, but
When we covered last week, I thought she was sus.
okay, I'm sold. She's horrible. That ring/necklace is bad.
I'm definitely suspect of her. Just to play the other side, I don't think I'm suspect of her because she has the Vought beauty product line, because as we've seen, Vought touches everything.
Okay, wait, let me touch on something that actually, this is a good time to bring it up because Francisco also brought up in the chat that, well, I'm saying this now, but it's not apparent on the show, but it is possible that Vought financially is crumbling. What does that mean for humanity? When Vought is in everything, what would it mean for it to be extracted from everything? It's a serious question. It's kind of like what we were saying about cold fusion on Fallout. What if you introduce something suddenly and not gradually, and it completely tanks the economy because our system is still based on the petrodollar. And if you take that away suddenly, as bad as Vought is in this universe, to have it suddenly ripped away and go under, what would that mean for everybody? All its entertainment gone. The thing that gave people purpose and meaning, all the food products, all the toy stores, all the beauty products, all of that stuff. It's funny to see the most well-adjusted person or soup up until this point, Vicky Newman, call out what is seeming to be the most unraveling person aside from Frenchie, maybe, but Frenchie seems to know what he feels like he must have to do. But did you ever really know who Annie January were? Between, like you said, I think it was you, the pageant circuit being rough. So who are you then? Jumping into being a superhero soup. So who is that person? Did she ever get to really know who that was?
Well, plus hearing from, and I'm sure you guys talked about this, but hearing what she said to Firecracker when they were on the circuit, hearing what she had said, she's not the person that we think that she is. Or at least
who
she is
was.
now, but she wasn't that person. They're touching a lot of dynamics, right? Because that's like the high school bully dynamic. So they're touching on a lot of different things because, like, you can grow to some degree. I was kind of with Firecracker. Not everybody changes.
Yeah, I'm colored by a certain experience. Not everybody changes. I feel like most people do, out of necessity too. Not everybody can exist in that manner. Life kind of motivates you to change somewhat, especially after 20 years.
I think you can just get better at hiding it, but I think it's still there.
Yeah, I think Rachel feels the same way because we've talked about this before. People don't change.
I think it
Actually,
has
I
to
think
do
it
a lot
was-
with my faith too, though, because people are bad. That's like the pinnacle of like my faith system. Is that people
I
are
mean, I think
bad.
it depends on what we're talking about.
Well, do you think
Like the
people are
core,
inherently bad or evil?
yeah,
Evil exists.
yes, of course.
We've had conversations about this. Bridget wasn't privy to them, but as it pertains, let's go back to Annie January, because who is that? She doesn't know. That's the most
That
important
is
part.
the other thing. We don't really know either. She plays everything really close to the chest. We don't get a lot of insight into how she is, just that injustices have happened to her, and we've seen how she reacts to that. But other than that, there's not a ton to know about her that we've been given.
Right. So we're in the same position that she is, in a sense. We know a lot about her.
They're leading us to believe that that was an intentional choice. I don't know if that was an intentional choice from the get for the show, but her character development has not been super thorough, in my
That
opinion.
could be intentional, though.
Maybe.
This is what I was thinking. We're supposed to like her. We're supposed to identify with parts that she's experienced, right? The pageant circuit, being shoved around and shuttled by her mom. Some of us are identify with the religious aspect of it, having that in your life and maybe not knowing if that's the path that you want to take. I sort of identify.
She is very similar to a lot of people I did not like growing up.
Okay. So maybe that's even
So
intentional.
I struggle.
too.
I struggle with connecting with her because I'm like, oh, so now we found out in these episodes that you are the high school
A little
bully.
bit. Yeah.
Great.
So how about this last week's episode where I brought up and I couldn't put a finger on it until this episode, and you identified it, that we don't really know her. She doesn't really know her. So what was so crazy about me saying the show makes a concerted effort down to Huey's dad about what powers give to people? And that is, it's too much power for any person, good or bad, to be able to handle, to put in check. Soups are out of control.
Yeah, I agree. I think to some degree, though, it's also the power that the public would give them.
Sure. Yeah. And the world puts them on a pedestal, etc. Sure. Yeah. That's the whole other side of the equation. I'm just talking about the brass tacks, the rubber hitting the road, all that stuff. Like when it comes down to actual power, like force, violence, the soups are crazy. They're out of control. Good or bad, it'll corrupt you because it's too much power. And again, like I said, Huey's dad is the ultimate expression of this. Somebody so good committing so much chaos and death and dismemberment and all that stuff, which you're smiling about, Rachel, but is horrible. This is what I'm saying. So when I turn that dial on to Starlight, you don't want to think that she's capable of this, but what makes her the exception? Kimiko's committing violence left and right, but she had a Frenchie. Starlight has a Huey. What if one slip happens? And it could happen to anybody on the show. The show makes it seem like that is possible, but not our Kimiko, not our Starlight. But yeah, what if? And she's obviously losing control. What if her powers do snap back into place and she has some sort of not Peter Parker syndrome?
I don't know if it's just me, but I actually really like Vicky. I didn't
I
for
do
a long
too.
time, but something about this season's Vicky, I'm like on board with now.
You missed what I said last week.
Like, get it, girl? I don't know why. Go ahead.
I said, she seems well adjusted. She's as invulnerable as Homelander. Point blank range, shot to the head, acid on your face, no effect. And then you add a healthy dose of self-awareness, let's say. You know what you are, you know what you did, and you're conscious of it and you feel bad about it. And you want to live in the world, you want to be accepted by your peers, you want to hide who you are, you want to control the almost uncontrollable power of popping heads. And so she is the most scary. And she is so unthreatened by Huey and what he just did that she doesn't even feel the need to have retribution. If Homelander, knowing that he can't get killed, basically, the second somebody looks at him the wrong way, he'll pop their head if they have the same powers. He lasered somebody in a crowd. So I don't really like her, but I'm thinking to myself, but what if she is trying to change? What if she's trying to use these powers, get into a position of power to actually affect good?
I don't know if that's what it is, but I like her more this season for some reason. Something about her.
She's like Moldaver.
It's been good. I'm at minimum interested to see where her story goes. Like at base minimum.
Exactly. Because I want to see the twist. We're meant to not like her.
Yeah, we are.
But what if, let me just throw this out there. I don't know if I believe this. I don't want to believe this. What if our dear Starlight might end up being a not good person?
Well, to be fair, I didn't really care for the way that Starlight acted towards Butcher this episode, so.
You're a Butcher apologist now.
I am. It's like,
It's
dude,
hard
you
to
know
get
who
behind
he
him.
is. You know how he's going to be. But
maybe that's why she acts that way.
I don't know.
Maybe
Something about that really bothered me because, like, he didn't follow through with it. That's the thing. Had he followed through with it, like 100%, yeah, okay, then slam him for it. I totally get that. But he didn't. he chose the right direction and you still punish him. And that's why I'm like, dude, what do you want from him?
I think I get it though. What if she's jealous? He gets to say whatever he wants,
I think there is
whenever he wants, and nobody calls him out on it.
with Huey's relationship with him.
Oh, okay. That could be it too.
Because Huey will forgive him no matter what, because like Butcher's the reason he's in this world. Butcher's the reason he's still alive. And Starlight has saved his life too, but Starlight didn't give him a reason to live. Butcher gave Huey a reason to live.
He got there first.
Something about it just like poked me. I didn't like it.
But then doesn't it go to what you guys now forever associate with me? You hate in others what you hate in yourself sort of situation. So it could be jealousy. It could be that, let's say, gender level. Why can he say whatever he wants? Why can he do whatever he wants and I can't? In pageant circuit, being told to be a certain way.
The difference is Butcher doesn't care what other people say about him. She does.
Well, yeah, I think to a certain extent. But what if she could?
She
What if
does,
she could
because
be
if
like
she
him?
didn't, Dave, she wouldn't have gone out and pummeled Firecracker in the middle of the street. It hit an extremely emotional note. I understand that. But she's still some crazy person on TV talking a bunch of trash. You can choose to ignore it. She can't. It just gets under her skin. It's why she's having the yips right now.
Let's read what Francisco says. Does anyone think Huey's mom went there because Vought told her about Vigilante on Huey's whereabouts? Oh, we were talking about that sort of in the first episode. Yeah, we said that maybe Vought put her up to it, let's say. Okay, she really come back because Huey's senior stroke. Love the callback to the comics when he called Huey Wee Huey. Was wondering what that was. I thought that might have been Simon Pegg being Scottish. I'm calling him Wee Huey, but okay, I dig it. That was Huey's nickname. Bye. Sheep effer is what Charity called herself in her name tag in the chat, which you can't see, but now you know. Annie is just a mean girl underneath. All the religion is getting unmasked. Francis is also, there's a lot from her time in Capes for Christ we could know. Yeah, but we don't, as on the show, at least. Next, they reveal she's an atheist and believes in the Church of Science, or the Church of Scientology. I hope after this episode, Butcher actually has the balls to do everything, and his humanity doesn't get in the way, because Butcher been going back and forth between a P word and a violent dude. I like how seriously they're taking Butcher's humanity also. Those moments where he can sometimes feel the weight of what he's doing. When MM calls him out in the barn, saying, I have a daughter to get back to. You may be a MFer, but you're not a
But you're an MFer with a
monster.
heart. JDM's character, do you just feel like it's Negan again? Like a less funny Negan?
I think he's arguably more funny.
I feel like he's Negan and John Winchester combined.
This is what we said before. Is Kessler the devil on his shoulder?
He does have a big old tumor in there. So probably when they were both there up against the wall, I was like, I wonder if they had a conversation about that they're both in the Walking Dead universe. Just thought it was interesting.
Right?
What I wondered was JDM's like a bigger star. I was wondering if he would have been like, hey, you were on Walking Dead. I was on Fear the Walking Dead. If JDM would be like, cool. Like,
I feel like that's not true, but I feel like if he did do that, he'd say in very Bridget manner, he'd be like, I love that for you.
It's like when your cousins come over for the weekend and then they want to hang out with your friends. But
Yeah.
you're like,
Not you.
At one point, our cousins came to visit and we had to bring them around our friends. And we were like,
This is my cousin. He's a jerk.
Yeah.
This is
I
my
have one of
cousin.
those.
She's not as cool as I am. Don't worry.
No, he definitely wasn't as cool as me. Definitely. He's actually kind of a jerk. I actually called him Fathead in my diaries
Oh my god.
because I was corny. Well, dear diary, if you like what you heard, why don't you write back sometime? But when you do it at ratethispodcast.com/squawkingdead. 5 stars and a notepad emoji, because dear diary is all we need to know that you love us. But tell us what you liked. Tell us what you didn't like. But remember to tell us anything after every episode. And if you really like what you've heard and you want more, you want to be a part of this thing, well, the first place to get started is by either following us on ko-fi.com/squawkingdead or patreon.com/squawkingdead, because you'll be able to get our recording schedules there, not anywhere else, and join these recording sessions for free, because following is free and joining the recording sessions is free, like Francisco in the chat. But we could use a little help. Get a little closer. Get a little closer. Come here. Have you seen this podcast? We could use a little bit more cashola towards our ever expanding budget. And when you tip us on Ko-fi, you'll be able to get access to our unedited episode recordings and access to our Discord forever. Or if you join for as little as $1 a month, a membership tier on either Ko-fi or Patreon, the party will keep going. You'll get more Discord access. You'll get some perks in the merch store or discounts as well. The key is, if you happen to join one of the upper tiers, you will get shout-outs at the end of these episodes, 50% off in the merch store, and a free classic t-shirt from our merch store. If you happen to join the Survivors tier, you'll be able to join us in these episode breakdowns along with us. There's only a few spots left. I've been your host, David Cameo, and I hope you enjoyed this very much. I was joined by Cosmom09, Rachel Burt, Sharon D, aka Blazy Gardner, and Bridget, ko-fi.com/punkybrewster. That's PUNKYBRUISETER. Can't wait for the next episode. We're already in the second half of The Boys Season 4, and I think people are liking these conversations, especially Francisco in the chat. I love you guys. You are good. See you next Tuesdays to hang out and dump the best knowledge. Old MacDonald
No,
had a
no,
farm.
no, 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 no.